What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream of the Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for coming back. Today, I've got some special guests in the wings. Pete is on the way, but he's a little bit late, but we've got Mr. Sean Usby in the back stream. Let's get him out here. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks
in
for
the back stream. Oh, I've never heard that one before.
It's what they say in Canada.
It is the weekend, bro. It is the weekend. Happy backstream day to you all, and happy backstream to you, the Ben Thomas from the Ben Thomas Show.
Thanks for joining, buddy. Today, guys, we've got some interesting topics. I want to dive a little bit into Star Wars, a little bit of Star Trek. I don't know Sean's take on Star Trek. He said he might go to the bathroom at that point, so we'll find out how he feels. We're going to talk a little bit about the Spider-Man, some Luke Skywalkers. I pulled up every picture of every Hot Toys Luke Skywalker I could find, and I still probably missed a few, so you'll probably have to keep me accountable on that one today, buddy. But we'll look through those, and then we're going to talk a little bit about The Last of Us Part 2, but the video game. Should the showrunner change the plot line of the game, or should they stick with it? It might be a bit spoilery, so at the end, we're going to save that chat for the end, but I'll be curious to see what the chat thinks about it, as well as yourself, good sir. So, with that, I will see you on the other side here. Give me 1 second.
Let's go for a rip, buddy. Come on,
Come
on,
let's get nuts.
Sorry. My StreamYard's being crazy, guys.
There's one thing that's always true, is that StreamYard always fucks up as soon as you need it to.
You know what? It did. But you know what? We're good to go now, so I'll see you on the other side, guys.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I give you Ben Thomas.
Showtime.
Here we go.
So I totally got it figured out. It was because this thing was sharing. It wouldn't let me share my intro. I hate to see it.
Okay.
I hate to see it. All good. We've got a ton of folks in the chat already, so let's shout them out a little bit here. Cisco, my captain from Definitve. Benjamin Cisco is a badass, 100%. Kinky Sphincter, let's go. Thanks for joining, buddy. Definitely appreciate it. We've got some guy. What's up, my favorite peoples? 12-inch Moose Stream. I saw him say today that he was thinking about going to pick up a Bo-Katan figure. We're going to talk a little bit about that because I'm loving my Bo-Katan figure. We've got some guy in the chat. 12-inch Moose Stream, Mr. Moose Stream, how are you? We've got 1 6-figure Focus in the chat. What's up, Benjamin? Order that 1/4 scale Batman yet? Oh man, he's been enabling me since Thursday afternoon. It's getting a little ridiculous at this point. So we're going to talk a little bit about more than what I've thought about over the last couple days. I'm going to share it quick today, and we'll see. I showed Shauna, and she really likes the Christian Bale Batman, so it's one of the only superhero movies she'll actually watch with me. Niculio the Great and Powerful with a nut in the chat. We're going to shout him out here in just a second. And of course, we got Andre in the chat. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining, buddy. Definitely appreciate it. Let's get some tunes going on in the background here. Way better. All right, so first thing that I want to show you today, Sean, is this particular title. So last week when I was streaming, I didn't know what the name of the show should be, and it left it really, really vague. So I put it out to the chat. I was like, okay, guys, tell me, like, what should I name this show every Sunday? And Niculio the Great and Powerful was the one that came up with it. So I wanted to bring him up real quick on Instagram. Let's take a look. Anybody out there, if you do not follow Niculio the Great and Powerful on Instagram, I would totally recommend checking him out. Some of these pictures are absolutely fire.
Plus, I mean, with Nick Cage, with Coolio's haircut, I mean, they don't get no better as far as avatars go. So clap for that one, man.
Dude, in my mind's eye, Niculio actually looks like Nick Cage with dreads.
If I ever meet him, I will be severely disappointed if he looks just like a normal dude that does not look like Nick Cage. So
no doubt.
Just FYI, if you ever come out to SDCC or anything like that, if you don't look like that, I'm gonna put you on blast.
I offered to send him like some Ben Thomas Show stickers or anything to say thank you, and he was like, no, absolutely not required. So I think the least that we can do is take a look, as I said, through his Instagram quick. Check them out, though, guys. I'm not going to click on all these, but these are some badass pictures. I like the tilt thing that he's got going on with the camera. That's pretty badass. So, Niculio, the great and powerful. Thank you, good sir. Definitely appreciate it. Bo-Katan.
Mommy.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Mando Season 3 so far? I don't know if we want to talk too much in terms of spoilers, but Bo-Katan's been a huge part of this. And I know you typically pick up the 1/6 figure like as soon as it's available.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on her this
She's badass, man. I mean, she for those that did not watch the Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that and just saw her kind of show up and do her thing and leave last season in Mando, you don't really have the sort of full flavor of how badass she was, I would say. She did some definitely cool stuff in second season Mando and all that, but obviously if you watch the animated stuff, you have a full sort of depth of who she is. And I think this season, a little bit last season, but this season I think she's coming into that badassery that we know and love from the animated stuff. Mm-hmm. Definitely interesting what they're doing with the character as far as being a little bit mopey, but I think we'll see how that plays out. I think it's maybe starting to fade even in this latest episode that we watched. So yeah, man. And then, dude, I don't know, whatever they did with her new hair this season. I mean, I know it's kind of the same as last season, but kind of a little bit different.
It's
maybe
like
it's just a little
subtly
bit
longer, maybe like
Yeah.
straighter. I'm not too sure. I've been trying
Right.
to figure it out myself. I'm not, because I wanted to know like a couple days ago, should I even consider getting this 6-scale figure? I hadn't had it in my collection. I knew you would say yes, and so I bought it on Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding, dude. It might be one of the favorite figures that I now have in the collection. Like, it's been my favorite of the quarter by far.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. I have a whole section for Mandalorian, so it's just a bunch of Mandalorians up there.
Show me.
And the blue and everything in her helmet. I mean, I've always been a fan of her helmet, but it just stands out, her and the Death Watch and Cosca Reeves. Not Cosca Reeves, what's the other one? The other dude.
Axe Wolves.
Yeah, there you go. Axe Wolves. Cosca Reeves isn't out yet. So I had originally planned on getting two, but when this came out, because I wanted to display it with that head sculpt, I know that head sculpt was a little bit controversial, but in person, yeah, there's nothing to complain about. So I was going to get two to do one helmeted and one helmetless, one with the Clone Wars display and one with the Mando display. But it just happened to come out at a time when like 6 other figures had come out, so I canceled the second one. But kind of glad I did now because, they're going to do in a season 3 version or something like that. So I'll get that one. But yeah, no, it's just a great figure with a lot of presence and not a whole lot of you don't need a whole lot of stuff. It's just her being a badass is the presence. So 100%.
That's fair. That's a good point, man. I think like other than though the slightly longer hair, maybe the energy shield that we saw in that last episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what else she would necessarily come with. The outfit looks pretty much the same. I expected there to be a noticeable change in all of their outfits by this point in the season, to be honest. Honestly, mostly for Star Wars to be able to just sell toys, right? Like they've always have. So I was surprised that there has been no major changes yet to the character, which is honestly the reason I justified picking this one up. And like, this is a photo I took the other night. Again, just the fact that you can raise her arms up this high. She's got what I think is a ratcheted joint. I didn't look in the details as well, but like you feel the clicks through the shoulders. The fact that she can actually hold this pose is crazy. It looks so good. I think the hard part I'm having, kind of like you mentioned when it comes to the controversial head sculpt from this first release, is that like I like Katie Sackhoff as an actress. I thought she was a badass as Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica back in the day. So I'm stoked to have that actress representation in my collection. But I love the helmet so much that I think I'd still rather display her like this in terms of like my Mando display.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, if I only have one, I definitely tend to display it with a helmet. I mean, if it was just a generic kind of Mandalorian helmet or something like that, then maybe not. But then again, is there even a generic Mandalorian helmet? I mean, they're all so unique, and that's the whole purpose of it, to paint your own armor, design your own armor, to have it be unique to your house, and yada yada yada. So they're just badass looking, you know what I mean? And I think the only reason why I would consider displaying her without a helmet and now Mando without a helmet is just because like specific scenes or something like that. But yeah, definitely with only one of her, I'm definitely displaying with the helmet. But if I get a second one, I think I'll do one helmeted and one helmet less.
If they do give us another one with an updated head sculpt, I would consider trying to see if I could just buy like a parted out version, like on like Toy Anxiety or like one of those places. See if you could just get the head sculpt down the line for somebody who wants to display it with the helmet, and then potentially have her separated, or make a Starbuck, paint the hair gold. See if I send it to Zach for a paint job over at Collecting Weekly. So, now, buddy, tell me a little bit about your affection for Star Trek.
Well, I grew up and Enterprise was my sort of no, sorry, Enterprise, no, Next Generation. What the fuck? They're on the Enterprise, yes. Next Generation was what I grew up with. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Remember back in the early days of the internet, what was it? I forget. Anyways, is the internet thing. One of the first memes was Jean-Luc
where he's like
Picard.
reaching out. There's so many. There's so many. The
it
ones
was
that
a
he's like
song.
looks really disappointed.
Yeah, it was a song. I'm not going to sing it, but
I'm not gonna sing it. That's next time.
But Riker just beat a badass and always sitting on a chair backwards and swinging his leg over, so you knew he was hanging something. Yeah, that was what I grew up watching. And I like Star Trek. I do. I know I make fun of you sometimes for it, but I do like it because it's a very hard sci-fi thing, and they do very sort of political stuff, but also just how that would be in the future and how this stuff would work out, and they deal with some goofy stuff, some zany stuff, but also some difficult stuff too. So I like it. Next Generation, at least. That's really the only one I've watched. I've never gotten into Voyager or anything sort of after that. I think once Star Wars, because I watched that, and then once I got more into Star Wars and stuff like that, I think that just took over. But I definitely appreciate it. It's not something that I'll ever collect outside of maybe a Jean-Luc Picard figure. Yeah, I appreciate it at least. But yeah, 7 of 9. No, I know of this person, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about her.
When you describe Star Wars to somebody, like most people have seen Star Wars, let's be honest. But
yeah, if
you explained it to somebody who had never seen Star Wars before, how would you explain that to them?
Star Wars?
Star Wars.
It's a space western. We'll say that. I think everybody's accepted that at this point, that it's a western just set in space, and that it's just it's a space western set in space of this guy who has special powers, who wants to find out who his father is in his past, and then just gets badass from there. And then there's like little bears that are super cute in the end, and voila, got it all.
That would definitely suck people in.
I know. It's hard. That's a tough question to ask. But it's definitely a western. It's more of a western than a sci-fi, where Star Trek is sci-fi. I think a lot of people conflate the two, that Star Wars is sci-fi because it's set in space, and that's not necessarily the case. Because I think maybe that's why it's so beloved by everybody. You know what I mean? For sci-fi and stuff like that, sometimes you have to be into it, to get into it, versus the Star Wars is more universal, and I think that's kind of why. So yeah, western set in space.
That was cool. Beautiful. I had to put you on the spot because I wanted to be as politically correct as possible. You have way more Star Trek or Star Wars knowledge, I'm sure, than even I do, as big of a fan as I am. And I explained Star Wars one time as space wizards, and got in a little trouble from that.
Well, have you seen that meme that Harry Potter is just yes. Star Wars with shittier lightsabers? I literally watched
it this afternoon. That's
okay,
so funny, dude. It's like the guy's just like, what, tripping out.
Yeah.
The reason I asked you that as well is when I think about Star Trek, for me, I think one of the reasons I liked it as a kid and even into my adult life is I've always thought about it as kind of like that ideological way that humanity could eventually become. And there was one scene from Star Trek First Contact. It was a film with the Borg a few years ago now. I'm probably dating myself. Where Jean-Luc Picard, he explains that in the 24th century, money doesn't exist. We work to better ourselves, and like in our humanity, and kind of grow as a population, or like as a species, as an existence. And that always like stuck with me, because I always thought it would be cool to not only have things like flying, spaceships, but to have like whole fleets and whole like civilizations of aliens and stuff like that. And one of the reasons I like Star Wars so much is that it connects me to that as well. But again, I like seeing that the daily like growth and debate and critical thinking of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So for me, when somebody says like, what do you like more, Star Trek or Star Wars, like they don't even feel like they're the same, even though they're both set in and around space. They feel so different.
Yeah.
7 of 9 here is one of my favorite characters from Star Trek, I would say, of all time. She was in Voyager, as you know, and what you can see on the screen. She was wonderful, the actress Jerry Ryan. She's also been in the recent season of Picard Season 3. For any Star Trek fans out there, if you have not watched Picard Season 3 yet, it's probably the best season of Star Trek I've seen since Enterprise. That excludes all the films, all the stuff. She's in it there as well, but it's been a great time. It's made me want to go and get this figure, because I'd had this one on order, Sean, and part of the reason was they actually like designed a specific metal endoskeleton for underneath, so that it could support her frame, and you see that like wiring around her like waist and stuff. It's meant to like have that from scenes of the show, and they specifically designed it, which was cool. I put it on order. They delayed it slightly. I took it off order, and now EXO-6 is saying that they're going to do another timed window release of this figure coming up. I don't know the dates in front of me, but again, anybody who missed on this figure, this is waitlist open on Sideshow at the moment. It's hard to get everywhere else. Keep an eye on the EXO-6 site also. Lukaloo, what's poppin', people? Hit that like button. Thanks for stopping in, buddy. Definitely appreciate it.
Question for you while we're still on Star Trek. Do you also like the Orville?
I love the Orville.
I love the Orville too.
The
It's
Orville,
great.
dude.
Yeah.
But for similar reasons, it feels
Yeah.
to me as close to like a Next Generation as I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
With some hilarious character moments, and the chemistry of that cast has been excellent. I have not seen Orville season 3 yet. I've only seen 1 and 2, and really enjoyed it. But the end of season 2, with the androids coming after everybody, like.
Yeah.
That was intense. It actually got like it felt like some of the best Star Trek style television I'd seen.
I know. I was talking to my buddy Chris at work. He's a huge Star Trek fan, and we were watching the Orville, and we were like, okay, let's check it out. I bet you it's just going to be like Futurama, but live action or whatever. And then when we started watching it, and it's just like, oh, this is just like Star Trek, but like with some funny parts mixed in every once in a while. But like, this is just like actually Star Trek. And then we watched all the seasons. We're like, wow, it's just like actually Star Trek, and it's probably some of the better ones we've seen. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, some amazing like episodic episodes that I really liked, but also just some of the obvious making fun of Star Trek that they do in the background that like is pretty subtle humor, but like if you see it and you're a huge Trekkie nerd, you'll laugh your ass off like half the time. So yeah, no, that's a good call, man. I definitely love that. But yes, this figure, if you're interested, limited window opening up on EXO-6. I don't like to promote them all that often, but this is a pretty badass figure. And if you have the Janeway or the possible Chakotay coming up, you're going to want 7 of 9 in your collection. Let's move on. This got teased today on Mars Toys Facebook page. Today or yesterday. All my days are blended together. I did not think that they were going to make this iteration of the character, especially after we saw the green suited version there kind of a week ago. What do you think of this? Did you like this movie? I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Did I like this movie? I think at the time when I was a kid, I forget when this came out, I liked it, because that was really the height of Jim Carrey, really. So it's like anything Jim Carrey at the time, and I think I was a teenager, or maybe 12 or something like that, was like
1995.
Okay, so yeah, I was 14, or maybe no, 13 or 14, and so I'm like, oh shit, anything Jim Carrey, let's go see this. So I think at the time I liked it a lot, and I rewatched it. I think CW did a movie of the week or something like that, and I rewatched it. And it was still entertaining, you know what I mean? I thought Val Kilmer was a good Batman. I thought, and then, I thought Jim Carrey, for the time he killed it at that, and Tommy Lee Jones was great. It doesn't, let's put it this way. I'd watch this 10,000 times before I'd ever watch Batman and Robin again.
No doubt.
So,
no doubt.
Yeah. As far as Jim Carrey, yeah, no, this is cool. The smile is a bit a bit a lot.
It's a little weird, yeah.
Yeah, but I think, it's interesting that they did this version of him. I agree with you on that one. I think everybody would have just been happy with his normal Riddler look, not the pizzazz one at the end. But yeah, no, for those that love this movie and collect this line, have the two other figures, this is great, 100%. And Mars has been killing it, so yeah,
they've been killing it. If they actually make this version, I almost hope they give us a second head sculpt with him after he gets that brain drain machine all jammed into his head, and he's like super down at the end. That would be hilarious to be able to kind of swap that out and show the transitions. But again, in terms of the outfit, like the glitteriness, not my favorite version. I would definitely stick with the Riddler suit look. But hey, you know what? If they can make this and get it in collectors' hands, again, they're just showing that they're going to be creative with their ideas over at Mars. And I think that that's pretty, it's worthy of really patting them on the back for.
Yeah.
Because it kind of makes collecting fun again. I don't know what they're going to come up with next. It's every day I want to check their page to see what's up.
Yeah.
And they've been they said on their Facebook page, so I guess their site got shut down briefly the other day. So now they've got a Facebook page. If you're looking for Mars Toys, go check them out. I know they've mentioned there in their posts that they're going to be working with 1/6 Kit. I like Kit. I've got my Joker pre-order through him so far. It seems like a good place. It's my first experience or second experience now with them, so it's been pretty good. But if you're looking for Mars Toys, find them over on Facebook. I am just, as I said, kind of excited to see what they come up with. And there's been so many random suggestions just thrown on the page of things that people want to see. Is there any random one-offs that you hope a Mars Toys would make for you?
Well, I mean, they seem to be going down the Batman line a ton, so I would love it if, well, one, they would redo the DX-08, the Joker. I know they did one. I want them to release it. Mars Toys, if you're listening, re-release it. Thank you. But I'd love a penguin, the Danny DeVito penguin from Batman Returns. I think that's what I remember seeing that back in the day, and I was like, it freaked me out. It freaked me out when I was a kid.
Dude.
But it's just such an iconic role. I think it would be great to have him. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess an Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze would be cool. Only because that movie is terrible. Yes, that movie is terrible. But figure form, having a blue-ass Arnold Schwarzenegger with all the cool gear on and stuff like that, I think that would be cool. So,
Marco said that I lost him when I mentioned that I'd want that Bane also, and he's like, "Oh, you lost me there." I think it would be kind of cool.
I don't know. I think you might lose me there too.
If they did it well.
Yeah.
12-inch Moose Stream says Mars Toys is a private group. It is. You can request to join. I was approved within, I think, 10 minutes. It was real quick. So it is a private group, but yes, you just click request to join there on there. Mr. Moose Stream. Who else do we got here? It looks like we're still carried out. Tyria, I don't think I said hello to you. Thanks for joining. Definitely appreciate it. Equan as well. Good to see you here, buddy. So let's switch gears a little bit from Batman. This pre-order is finally up. It's weird to me that Hot Toys Facebook group hasn't highlighted this yet, but I know it's through Sideshow. But it's weird to me that they're not advertising more in the way of blogger photos. I hope we get some more here pretty soon. But is this a Spider-Man that you want in your collection?
Without a doubt. Come on, man. Yeah, I mean, I wanted it. The original one when it came out, I wasn't really collecting this intense, and I was like, I don't need that Spider-Man. But then, obviously when it came back for No Way Home, I was like, I need that Spider-Man. And the old releases are showing their age, I'll say. Some, they're still have a good shelf presence and stuff like that, but I think they could use an updating. So this is the update, yeah, dude. Andrew Garfield, I think, was the highlight of No Way Home. I think his performance and his sort of redemption with Gwen and all that stuff, I think, was one of the major highlights of the movie, one of the emotional highlights at least. And so,
no doubt,
getting him for at least the meme, the meme pose was necessary. So I was starting to get concerned that they weren't going to release him because Hot Toy's got a Hot Toy, and they hadn't put him up for order yet. So yeah, but then at least when all that stuff started to come out with Andrew Garfield and the SH Figure Arts, portrait and stuff like that, I thought, okay, well, maybe it's a licensing issue that they're having a tough time getting this approved. So for whatever reason, it took, almost a year to go up for pre-order, but it's up. It's great. I can't wait. And and for Garfield, I think I'm not the one that came up with this, but I think it's true. Is that I think Tobey was probably the best Peter Parker, and then Andrew Garfield was probably the best Spider-Man, but he was too cool to be Peter Parker. So, and then Tom Holland's kind of the, good at both. So, so I'm happy to have this guy in my collection for sure.
How do you like the head sculpt on this? Like, are you happy with this? Do you think it looks enough like him?
Yeah, I do. I mean, maybe the nose is a little bit big, but I think in general I see Andrew Garfield there. I don't think you would look at that, especially on a shelf, and be like, who's that?
Fair. That's fair.
And plus, 9 times out of 10, he's gonna have the mask on anyways. So, I'm fine with it. I mean, Hot Toys will inevitably tweak something. I mean, to some degree or another. Maybe it's lighten the paint apps, change the nose a little bit, change the hair. I don't know, but if it came out tomorrow like that, I'd be fine with it. So, we'll see. We'll see what they do, how they change it. But I've wanted a Garfield Spider-Man for a while, and glad I don't have to reach back too far for it.
100%. It's kind of the debate I keep having with myself with helmeted figures or masked figures, right? Like every time you get a sculpt and the mask version, like what one do I display? It feels like an absolute waste of artistry to take your like nicely beautiful painted head sculpt and leave it in the box. On the other hand, I don't always want to buy 2 of every figure that has a helmet or a cowl or a mask. So it's such a hard battle for me. I do try and change them up a little bit. This I think is my favorite Spider-Man suit. I've always liked the big comic book style eyes. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is still to me like my most iconic one, I think. Spider-Man 2 for me was one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, especially when I was younger. I couldn't imagine superhero movies like getting beyond that level. Like that just felt so awesome. And then he never really got, a good third offering. Like you got kind of the shaft on that. Whereas Tobey, he still got his third offering, but it was like notoriously hailed as kind of a bad movie, right? And even then, I still liked it at the time because I was excited to see an on-screen representation of Venom back then and all of those things. I've wanted a blue and red suit in my collection for a little while because I've got the black and red one, the upgraded version, the Tom Holland, and I love that suit. The black and red reminds me of the old school comic books, which is cool, but I feel like I need a blue and red one. The challenge I have for myself right now is like I don't necessarily want like 3 or 4 Spider-Man in my collection though. Like I try to stick as much to 1 or 2 main characters. I think I can justify it if it's a Tobey, an Andrew, and a Tom, and like they're 3 different actors, 3 different film sets. So like I think I can justify that. But then there are suits like the classic Spider-Man suit that recently came out. That's beautiful, and or the blue and red one from the end of the Tom Holland film there. Like there's so many versions. If you had to only pick one Spider-Man, what would you choose? If it was a blue and red one, I should say. Yeah. I need your help. I need you to narrow it down for me.
Well, first of all, I would not choose one.
I would not choose
I would choose one of
I'm
each.
leaving
One
the
Andrew,
stream.
one,
I'm not answering this question.
one Andrew, one Garfield, and one Tobey. I would, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
One of each. I think that's fair because they are 3 different interpretations, 3 different decades, basically, and then 3 different, actors, characters, and takes on the suit. So, I really think you could make a justified argument to have one of each. But to Sophie's choice, to answer your question specifically, if I had to keep only one of
Sophie's choice,
if I had to keep only one of the Spider-Men that I have,
and it can include the new like Tobey that hasn't come out yet, if you wanted.
Yeah. No, I think it would be just because I have it in hand and I know how good it is. The Advanced Suit Deluxe from the first movie with Tom Holland, because it is blue and red. It doesn't have exactly the the old school look like the classic Spider-Man figure, but it's got the hoodie, it's got the books, got the yellow jacket, got a good enough head sculpt. It's got it's got kind of everything. So I think if I had to have one, it would be that. But I don't ever have to make that decision. So
That didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
You picked the one that I can't get anymore.
Okay, so if you had to pick, if I had to pick the
Like,
black suit one, or if you have, I'll help you. If you have, so you have the black suit, the black and red suit,
Yeah.
and then you have this one on, might have this one on, or you could order the Toby.
This one or Toby, I'm kind of in between, but I'm leaning more to Toby, even though I like the suit of this one more. I think I'm just gonna have to get both. I don't even think this is it's a favorable question. This question sucks. It cannot be answered. It cannot get all the Spider-Man people. So
Yeah.
I think I will get one of each. It's an expensive line to buy either way. Spider-Man and likeness rights and all of the things. Toby's likeness rights must be crazy lately. With the price.
He's the only one that's like over $300.
That must like he must be being like, you are paying my bills going forward.
Yeah.
So let me share one thing here. Okay, I wanted to pull something else up here for us to quickly look at, because I know that you have some Mondo toys in your 1/6 scale collection.
That I do.
Including this Wolverine that we're looking at here, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can you sell me on this a little bit? Because this guy is almost gone. I know that once Mondo sells out, they're usually like sold out. They're gone.
Yeah.
I love the yellow and blue look, and I love the original television show from the 90s. Like, it's, to me, so nostalgic. Is there any reason I shouldn't consider this figure for $200 while it's still at the almost gone stage?
No, what? No.
They're on
I mean, you said it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it yourself, right? You love the animated series.
Yeah.
If you love the animated series, or in a pinch, you love Jim Lee or something like that, his interpretation of Wolverine. Yeah, but I mean, if you love the animated series like I did and like you did, there's really nothing not wrong. I have the SCC exclusive version of it where he's laying down on the
That's
bench
amazing.
or out on the bed. It's a great figure. It's definitely the only thing that's weird about it, or not, I don't want to say weird, but different about it than we're used to, is that it is a 6 scale figure, but it is like a, Black Series or Marvel Legends in that it's all sculpted, it's all plastic, it's all, those type of joints. But I think because it is representing an animated line, it works, you know what I mean? And it works fine. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably the only blue and yellow and blue, tiger stripe suit we're going to get a Wolverine for a while. I'm hoping they do that in the MCU at some point. But
Did you have the sideshow one, sorry to interrupt?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Did the claws keep falling out on that one for you? Like, I've seen that's kind of an issue for a lot of folks, and it's been a deterrent for me buying it.
I mean, I have all three of the ones. I have the brown suit, and I have the tiger stripe, and then I have the other one, the exclusive for Astonishing. They, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's never been annoying for me. Right now they're boxed up. I open them to inspect and stuff like that, and it didn't fall out, enough that would annoy me back then. So when I have them displayed here soon, I'll let you know. But I think you're one thing I guess I should have prefaced this with is my son's name is Logan. Logan's my favorite. Mutants are my favorite, Marvel, genre or whatever group, and then X-Men are my favorite, title, and Logan's my favorite comic book character and everything. So like, if you're gonna ask me about Wolverine, whether you get it or not, like,
It's going
yes,
to
you
be a
should,
yes.
because like I said, my son's name's Logan. If that tells you how much I like the character, so.
That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I think you have some of these already, right? But like the DC versions.
So I don't, and that's another reason I was asking you today, buddy. Because
Oh, I thought you got the Joker and stuff like that.
No, I had it on order and I canceled it. It was a bad time at work there for a month, and I was like, no, can't justify it right now, and didn't rebuy it. But they're still available, and they're not even saying low stock yet. And I'm like, oh my god! Like, I think the hard part is that I have like auto CD when it comes to collectibles. It's the reason I have a hard time ever justifying getting like a quarter scale in my collection, because the size difference. I had my the Batman Begins Hot Toys figure for a little while, and I ended up selling it because it felt more video gamey and different than some of my movie like masters kind of, or like movie realistic versions, right? I'd be worried that as much as I love these particular characters, if I get them in 1/6 scale form, I'll feel compelled to display them with the other collection, and that it'll drive my OCD nuts. But I mean, that's more of a personal thing, obviously, than anything. Nobody can say how you're going to feel. But, like, does it draw your eye in a bad way, would you say, if you've got your animated figures displayed with them? Or, like, do you like the look of it?
I have mine kind of separated, so I do have like a sort of a secondary display. It's, you know, my main stuff is for movies and stuff like that, but I do mix some like Clone Wars and stuff like that in there. But even though I guess Clone Wars kind of has the stuff that's putting out has a realistic look, but I wouldn't mind displaying them. You know, the way I'm going to be displaying them is like all my Sideshow X-Men figure I'm going to display with these anyways, the Wolverines and all the Magneto and the Jubilee and Gambit and stuff like that. So I don't mind doing that, you know, so it's a little bit separated. But yeah, I guess I could see how that OCD would definitely trigger some me too, probably at some point. But yeah, I just have like a little secondary display because, you know, there's not too many of them. You know, there's like 3 or 4, so you can almost put them on your desk or something like that if you wanted to. Or
there's not too many of them now. I think that's my worry. I've got the 7-inch line of these figures from the animated series, and some of my favorite figures in the collection. Honestly, they're so colorful. But there's a lot of them, like a ton of possibilities. And with Mondo doing the Joker already, Batman already, Catwoman already, Mr. Freeze already, I'm like, okay, like they've got a good start. Like this could be a deep, deep line. I will say though that if Batman the Animated Series, for anybody out there, if that's one of their favorite shows of all time, just like it is for me, having the 7-inch version in my collection, just a collection of them, is phenomenal. And it actually doesn't bother my OCDness. I think probably because they're all entirely a different scale, but they're also so like brightly colored and just eye-catching, but in kind of a uniformly nice way. I've actually thought about getting like a tattoo at some point of the animated series, just because I love the the artistic style and the animation and the color and all of it. So
I got a spot you could put the Batmobile.
That sounds dirty. Show me.
But yeah, man, I mean, this X-Men figure, I mean, you really can't go wrong with a blue and yellow suit Wolverine. I mean, the Mezco ones are great, but they're 12 scale. You know, it's big. It's, you know, you can pose it because it is, there's no cloth or anything like that. So if you love Wolverine and you love the animated series, I mean, I think it's a good line to get into. I think there's only, 3 figures now? Wolverine, Gambit, or Wolverine, Magneto, and Jubilee. And I know they showed a Gambit at STCC, so I'm sure he'll be coming at some point. But yeah,
for sure. I think I'll probably pull the trigger, at least on the Batman animated series, if not the X-Men line. Again, X-Men is the same reasoning that I have for animated Batman. Like the line, if they start on it really deeply, like could go a long way. That Magneto was really, really cool. Where the heck was it? Magneto was really cool. It sold out super quickly. Their He-Man line has been amazing. Masters of the Universe. And then their Batman line. One last question about those and then we'll move on. The paint application. When you move the joints on your yellow Wolverine, or do you move it all that often? Like, is there wearing? Do you notice like paint transference or anything like that? Because on the small 7-inch scale Batman ones, if you bend the knee, we'll see like some paint breakage and stuff like that.
I have not articulated mine, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine so. I would imagine there's always that risk or whatever, you know what I mean, in the joints and stuff like that. I need to research that more, but yeah, I haven't articulated mine, so yeah. Unfortunately, I can't answer that for you.
No,
it's a leap of faith.
Because you're keeping yours in your little box,
yeah,
like in the bed box.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Oh, that's cool. Let's get this back on the screen here. I think I'll buy them. If I do, I'll put them on the channel and give you my thoughts.
Do it.
We already mentioned Mars Toys Facebook, but I wanted to just make sure there was a slide of it there. Did you see the Black Adam movie?
I did,
What were your
yes.
thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts were it was a very good early 2000s superhero movie put into 2022. I mean, look, there's worse ways to spend 2 hours of your life. I just thought it was definitely a DC movie, you know, with a radical 10-minute skateboarding video in the middle for what, you know, back in the day when it was like, you know, skateboarding was super popular in the 90s and 2000s, and like they had to put
Tony Hawk's.
Yeah, they had to put their skating in the middle. It's like this kid randomly is running away from people and he grinds a rail and does like a trick around. It's Anyways, I thought of the whole movie, Doctor Fate was the coolest part of it. So, to swing back to the stuff on here, but yeah, it was a movie. There was worse ways to spend 2 hours of your life. It was entertaining enough. The Rock was fine.
Did you get the Black Adam figure? Did
No,
you
no.
lock it in?
No, definitely not. No,
Didn't like it enough.
no. I don't. I collect enough shit. I don't need to add another line to my
fair.
thing. So, but yeah, no, I'm good on that.
My fear of missing out for having a Dwayne Johnson in my collection was pretty cool. It's pretty bad that when I see he could be wearing pretty much anything, and I just see him as Dwayne Johnson or The Rock, you know. So
Yeah.
like just the fact that he's in Black Adam gear, I think is kind of cool because I typically collect superheroes. But I didn't pull the trigger in time for it to go like weightless now, and it is what it is. I like the black outfit for the Black Adam a little bit more than the gold
Yeah,
one.
100%.
For the Pierce Brosnan here from Mars, again, like talking about Mars a lot in the last 2 weeks, it's been crazy. This does look pretty good. Like the age spots up on the forehead and everything. Like we need to have like an old man club in our 1/6 scale collections. You know, like a little like brandy room or something where you can bring
Yeah.
all the old gents or the heroes together. But he kind of looked like this, like for a lot more of the movie than I expected him to. Like he kept taking his helmet off as Dr. Fate, and that was like driving me nuts. I'm like,
I know.
I get it, you're Pierce Brosnan, like we want to see you, but like, leave your helmet on, man. that's like the coolest part of the outfit.
Yeah.
I like that they at least gave us the helmet, which is a serious benefit. But I feel like I don't know if I'd want to collect this version of Pierce, if that makes sense. I think as Dr. Fate, it's a cool character to go with your superhero collection if you have one, or if you did like the Black Adam film. But otherwise, this guy's pretty much just a guy in the suit, even though it is Pierce Brosnan and he is super iconic as an actor, obviously. I'd want almost a younger version of him. James Bond, like 007 GoldenEye, he was my James Bond for a long time. It was Sean Connery and Pierce. And despite me liking him in movies like, Mrs. Doubtfire and some of the other options that he was in, I think I'd want a younger, like more suave version of Pierce than the old man guy.
Yeah,
right
man.
now,
GoldenEye figure for the win, man. That would be so awesome, especially with the revamped of the GoldenEye video game now. Yeah.
100%. Did you try? So there was a Far Cry 5 mod of GoldenEye. Somebody like you could basically build a level within like a character created level, and he built every level of the whole GoldenEye game, but all in Far Cry 5 graphics and guns and all of it. It's awesome. If you have Far Cry 5, you can play it for free. I would totally recommend looking into that. If anybody's interested, hit me up after the show, and I'll send you the link for that, because it was a really cool version. Just to go through with like modern guns, but whoever created that world, like he put some love into that dude. Like every corner that should have a bad guy had a bad guy. Like it was fantastic. We've got a special guest arriving in the stream, fashionably late, but love to see you here, buddy, Mr. Pete Cass from OFAC and Collecting Weekly. How are you doing, bud?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Hi, Sean. I think possibly first time streaming together.
I think so too. As Manny would say, "What's up, Teal Pete? What's going on?"
It's been a dream of mine. Another one to tick off the list. But, good. Yeah, I think it's a perfect time for a Brit to come in.
It
talking
is
about Pierce Brosnan.
There we go.
It is. You also looked very cleaned up today, Pete. Were you on a date or something today, or just out with the wife? You look very fab today, bud.
Oh, okay. No, I've been playing tennis tonight.
That's all it takes. Sweaty tennis, and Pete comes out looking extra good. Good. That's so funny. You guys have been on CW or Collecting Weekly for so long together, but never streamed together. That's crazy.
Too much manliness for one stream. We might break the internet. So.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah,
definitely,
if it starts flickering out, you know why.
Yeah.
That's also funny. So it is a perfect time. What were your thoughts, Pete, on Black Adam the movie, but then also the figure line? Would you actually invest in any of these figures?
I did enjoy the movie. We went to see it in 3D 4DX, so that kind of gives you a different experience, and you kind of I think it's easier to gloss over the fact that it wasn't a great movie, but it was good fun. I'm a big fan of of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. To me, he's the kind of the spiritual successor to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I absolutely worship. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I wouldn't be buying into the figures. I mean, when I saw the Black Adam figure, I kind of was interested just because of the fact that I'm a Dwayne Johnson fan. But ultimately, I decided that I wasn't going to kind of invest into that. But that's funny you talk about GoldenEye, because I literally just started playing it again a couple of days ago. Because I remember it from Xbox.
Okay.
Through the Game Pass thing. Only because I don't normally pay for it, but I just signed up for a new broadband full fibre, and they give me 6 months free. So I thought I'd give that a go. But yeah, I remember it from.
Sorry, I had to.
1996, playing it for the first, when it first came out with some college buddies, way into the small hours of the night. Absolutely brilliant, and it's great to be playing it again, like on the projector on a big screen now, and just love it. And it's funny how you forget how easy games are now, that there's multiple save points, or if you die, you only go back a little way. With this one, straight back to the beginning of the level if you die. And
that's right.
It's brilliant. Love it.
I got the adapter so I could plug my N64 into my 70-inch flat screen.
Right. Okay.
And it looks pretty terrible, but it's so nostalgic that it's still fun to play. I got it mostly so I could play Zelda Ocarina of Time on it as well, because that's one of my favorite N64 games of all time.
Yeah, because it looks like they've kind of, they've not completely rehauled it, but I guess it's got some anti-aliasing and stuff like that, but it's still
helps.
Still that blocky original look. But I think blowing an N64 image up onto that screen would look pretty bad. But
it looks pretty bad.
It's great.
For me, I don't think I'm going to end up collecting any of these, especially if I end up missing the Black Adam release altogether. He was still my favorite part of the film. Pierce would be closer to a second favorite part. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who felt really annoyed by the kid in that movie, because when I left the theater, I felt a little bad about being that was okay, but man, that kid drove me nuts. And then everybody I've talked to has said the same thing. I'm okay, I don't feel like a bad person. I don't know if I would get this version, but for those who are getting it, I think the price is pretty solid, or I'm sure will be pretty solid if it hasn't been released. I guess I don't know if this one has it quite yet, but I'll be curious to see if it's in the 160 to 180 range from Mars, like some of these other releases have been. That's super affordable. Pete, earlier we were just talking about Mars and the ability to open Facebook and not have any idea what you might see that day, right? They're seemingly going into some characters that we wouldn't necessarily expect, or versions of characters we wouldn't expect. Is there any character you'd hope Mars Toys would tackle?
It's an interesting one, because there's just an infinite number of IPs. I've just got the invoice for my prank villain today, so hopefully I'll have him in the next week or so. That looks really, really sweet. There's loads of really niche stuff that I don't think they'd ever touch. I'd love to have some figures from Krull or Hawk the Slayer, classic 80s sword and sorcery kind of stuff. It's great to see that they're kind of they're knocking stuff out, and it looks really good quality. So it's good to have another kind of Present Toys have really stepped up, and it's good to have another third party that's actually putting out some decent stuff, because we see some real ropey looking stuff from companies that I've never heard of.
You're not wrong.
But a couple of these have kind of really stepped up now. So
and now that people are getting them in hand and seeing the quality, it's
exactly
exciting. I think we should continue. Sorry to interrupt. I think we should continue to Hail Mary suggestions over to them. Anytime you want something that's if I just had this and it would fit in the collection, I do think we should give that to them. It might be surprising how much support they have. Like you mentioned, some of your offerings might not be something I collect, but I bet there's a whole community of people that if they saw some of those pop, it would be yes. That's what I want.
Yeah,
for sure. Quarter scale. Pete, I'm going to start with you. Do you collect quarter scale or statues? I don't know if I know that about you.
I have one premium format indie, of course. I've got the. It's funny. It's one of those ones where it's the Sideshow premium format, the Raiders of the Lost Ark one, mixed media. I had a chance to buy one way back when I started collecting. Well, before my first, I was back in sort of 2009, maybe when it came out, and I think it was like £150. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of money for one." And then I regretted that for years because the price of it went through the roof, and I used to look at them and think no. And then I managed to get one for a decent price, and I love it. Yeah. I've never had a posable quarter scale figure in hand. I'd really like to see one. I mean, I've been very tempted with the Hot Toys Vader or maybe the Mando, but yeah, I haven't actually had one in hand. But I mean, they do look very impressive because of the additional details and stuff you get with them. So it'd be nice to have some, but I think I'm going to have to stick with my 1/6 with my exception of being indie, because obviously I am the big indie guy. So
That's fair. And like quarter scale indie would be badass. Let's be honest. I think
a
this
fully posable one, yeah.
Yeah,
brilliant,
man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with a whip and everything. Like yeah, 100%. I don't know which indie I would want the most, because I think as a kid I would say that I watched Temple of Doom the most because it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But like all three films of indie, I know there's more films of indie, but I only consider the first three still.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
And it would be that or a Raiders for sure. I think the two. I did like The Last Crusade, but
Yeah.
his look in that film to me isn't as iconic as those.
Yeah,
first,
I think
those
as a when I growing up with them, I think it very much would have been, as you say, Temple of Doom, because that was the first one. I was a bit young for Raiders. I was 6 when Raiders came out. Temple of Doom, I remember seeing it in the cinema with some of my friends, and then Last Crusade. But I think as I've got older, then Raiders is definitely like head and shoulders above. That's the iconic look for me. But
How does it fit in space-wise for your collection? Like, is it something that, like, when you have such a broad 1/6 range, like, does it draw your eye in a good way, a bad way, neutral? Like, how do you feel about it in your collection room with the rest of your collectibles?
Oh, he's fine. He doesn't fit in the billies, but he's just on the bookcase next to the thing. And I've got on the wall behind him, I've got an indie jacket, hat, whip, all that sort of thing. So there's like a little indie shrine
That's cool.
next to the billy. So yeah, he fits in quite nicely there.
I used to work with a guy at Eastside Mario's back in the day, way back in the day, and he, on his off time, would dress like Indiana Jones everywhere he went. He was an older guy, clearly his favorite character, but he was just like, it was his cosplay outfit, but he just loved it. And anytime you'd see him at the Eastside's bar afterwards, or in town, he'd be wearing his Indiana Jones gear, full out. But he did well. He had the proper hat and the shirt and all of it.
Yeah.
In terms of a Batman quarter scale, I'm sure you've kind of already answered it for me, but would you ever consider something like this? Or if you did, what would the price have to reduce to make it more palatable to come in the collection? Right now it's posted at $699.
Oh, yeah. Was that US dollars?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely under 5, I think. I mean, I'm not a massive. I love the. Talk about this figure in particular. I do love the movies, and I have owned some of the I had a DX12, but yeah, it's not one that I'd want to own. But I love the movies. I mean, maybe something like from Lord of the Rings would be, but obviously I'm going in on the Inart 1/6, but. Something like that would be really cool in quarter scale. Something where you could like really appreciate the details and the costume and things like that. Soft goods and things like that. But yeah, I think. I mean, obviously the price of things is getting pretty crazy, and in the UK we face additional challenges with import duties and stuff like that. So
100%.
I'm kind of struggling to kind of stay in the 1/6 at the moment. I mean, obviously I've got a lot of figures that I could kind of sell to broker some money, but I've kind of got to the point where I'm really happy with the collection. There's not really anything that I can easily let go. So yeah, it certainly would. I certainly wouldn't be venturing into quarter scale for the money and also because of the space, I think.
Yep.
But
No,
I do appreciate them, and I'd love to kind of just have some in hand just to see what they're like.
That's fair. Honestly, it kind of echoes how I feel about it. I think part of it for me is the oversaturation. There's so many things right now that I want. There's like, I mean, we just looked at Mondo's website for 5 minutes, and there was like 5 figures just on there that I want, let alone all of the movie figures that I want, all of the different like Marvel and DC and Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah,
like,
and you're
it's crazy.
sort of relatively new to this hobby compared to myself, so you've probably still got quite a hit list of things that you want to be ticking off. Whereas I'm fortunately kind of as things have got a little bit harder, that I'm only sort of looking to. There's always going to be that piece that just pops up, and you're like, oh, I fancy that. But for me, it's just trying to fill those last sort of few spaces in the collection. You know, mainly from a Star Wars point of view. I think everything else is fairly complete now. So
to be honest, well, and I think the other thing that you mentioned is like, it's not even just the cost of it right now at retail, but if these drop in value significantly, like a lot of other quarter scales seem to be doing lately, like then you can't even like if you try and sell it down the line, you're not going to make your money back. Even like, because even if you could just come out flat, like that used to be kind of what to expect from the collectible selling game. Sure. Now it's not as good. The economy's tough for everybody. Sean, you collect more 6 scales than a lot of folks that I know and chat with on the regular. But I don't know anything about quarter scale game for you. Like, is this something that interests you at all?
No, yes. I do have a few quarter scales. I have the Vader, the Spider-Man, and the Iron Man. And I have a few statues, like 5 statues, something like that. I'll focus on figures just because, you know, that's what we're kind of talking about. I think they're very cool. I think they definitely have a shelf presence. You know what I mean? I think I've been very picky with the ones that I've chosen just to be, you know, kind of get one figure from that genre or from that line or whatever you want to call it. So for the Iron Man, it's a Mark III. I mean, that's the first figure, or sorry, the first suit, and the second suit, but you know what I mean, the first red and gold suit.
First one in the right colors,
yeah. And so I wanted to get some representation of that. Plus the sculpt being bigger just allows them to be better, you know, a better likeness, a better sculpt. You know, there's more room to work with, I guess, on there. So that, you know, particular figure has a great Tony Stark likeness. With the Vader, you know, it's got the unhelmeted sculpt, and just, again, since it's bigger, it has more details and stuff like that, and, you know, you can do whatever. With the Spider-Man, I got that just because Spider-Man's one of my favorite, you know, secondary to X-Men, one of my favorite comic book characters. It's got a really badass base, and just, you know, it's just Spider-Man. It just looks cool on the shelf. So I try to just choose, you know, here and there. I've not bought any of them at retail. I've bought them all either secondhand for cheaper or, you know, on great deals or something like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think they serve a place if you have a love for a very particular character, and you want to have that be not a centerpiece, but, you know, more of a centerpiece, I would say, than like a statue, but still have the ability to pose it, because that it is cool to pose big figures like that. Every joint is ratcheted. Every joint is, you know, sort of hard to move in a good way. So they hold a lot of poses and stuff like that, and they just have a lot of shelf presence. So I have 3. I don't plan on, you know, considered getting Mando just because it's just Mando. But I passed. So I'm just gonna keep on, you know, picking up ones here and there that I like. As far as this Batman, I have my Bale Batman. It's DX19. That's all I need. I don't need a quarter scale of it. I know a lot of people love Bale Batman, so, you know, more power to you if you like this one. But they're different. You know what I mean? It's definitely an acquired taste, I would say, these quarter scale figures, because they're more plastic. Like the Iron Man, it's not die cast; it's all plastic. Yeah. But, you know, how are you going to tell?
I've always wanted to try and like pose one, because they feel pretty large in hand. I'm sure. I think the only quarter scale that I'm still really truly considering getting in the collection are the 4 Ninja Turtle quarter scales. I love those guys. They look awesome in people's collections. They really, for me, resemble an old toy that I had back way back when, that was very much like a quarter scale turtle at the time. I'm sure these ones are better detailed, but that's quarter scale that I think I could latch on to.
Yeah, and there are a lot more. You could get all 4 for the same price as this guy, so they're all, you know,
Yeah, dude.
they're more a reachable kind of target. Yeah, I agree with you. I you know, I've got the little 7-inch ones, and they're cool. But yeah, I'd love the quarter scale ones as well.
Well, and as much as I like The Dark Knight, I am surprised how relevant collectibles still are for that series of movies. I mean, it's like 2008 was when The Dark Knight came out. 2012 for The Dark Knight Rises. Like we're getting well beyond that time now, a decade past or more. I'm surprised that we're still getting more and more collectibles all the time. And I know Inart has kind of teased that they may do a Bale Batman as well. I mean, we'll see. Like again, I almost don't want them to, because I like my DX12 the way it is currently, and if they come out with something significantly better, I would be tempted by that. But I think that's the way she goes when it comes to nostalgia, right? We're all at that age, like 10, 20 years, 10, 15 years ago, I was in my early 20s. I just couldn't afford collectibles like this back then. Now I'm in my 30s, and I can consider it more regularly. And I have places to actually put it. I'm not in a dorm room anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they that's why we're seeing still so much from it. But it'll be curious. I do really like the base on this. I think that these, like the likenesses of the villains on the statue, I think are actually really good. And I think the figure overall is cool, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. It would have to be like half price, and even then I'd have to try and figure out a display that would make sense.
Yeah, I almost think there's like a... Sorry, Sean. I was going to say, there's almost like a sweet spot. You said you picked some up for good price. I think there's like a sweet spot where it'll be quite soon. So people will pick these up, and then they'll realise that they didn't like it, or they haven't got room for it. And they'll sort of a few months down the line, that's going to be the sweet spot where you can get a good deal. I think once they go longer, they then start to build, like that Vader. There were some really good deals on that, but now it's kind of back up to retail and maybe more. So it's about, with these, like just getting lucky and getting in at the right time when the prices drop, I think.
Yeah, and for my quarter scales, what I plan to do, I had to box them up because I'm redoing my entertainment center downstairs. Is I plan to put them downstairs, sort of on either side of the TV, because instead of have them with the rest of the collection, because they really don't fit and they're too big. They're more so like display pieces or whatever. Like maybe I'll put Iron Man and Darth Vader in that, and then I'll put Spider-Man in my son's room.
I was going to say, you've got 3, so you've either got to buy another one, or you've got to put one on each side and put the other one. But if your son gets it, then he's a winner as well. So.
Exactly. So we'll see. You put them all over the house, and I guess it's up to Shauna how what her tolerance level is for displaying stuff around the house. But luckily,
there is no tolerance. There is no tolerance. I got a basement level. That is like the line of that basement is where that ends. Yeah,
I'm definitely beyond the realms of this room. No.
I know. I've only been allowed those figures and some of the Guardians of the Galaxy figures, just because my wife is such a fan of the Guardian of the Galaxy movies. I'm allowed to put those other places, but that's
lucky. I meant to ask you, what is on your hat design, by the way, buddy?
It's Overwatch. It's Tokidoki. Did an Overwatch line a few years ago.
It's badass, actually. That's badass. You always come on with unique gear, so I'm always a little curious.
Have you actually got a hat collection, Sean? Is that?
I do. I have stumbled into collecting hats now because of course. Yeah.
How many have you got?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Over 40, probably.
Wow. Yeah.
Much to my wife's dismay, every time I get a box in the mail, she's like, "Is this another fucking hat?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You have to get rid of one." And luckily, I wear them. It's not like I collect them and not wear them. Some I don't, but so they get gross and I can throw them out. But it's a constant thing. I always find a way to collect something new. Unfortunately,
yeah, I know. This is the trouble, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, and you tend to you both tend to really support other channels collecting weekly. I know I see you guys on lots of different streams out there, especially you, Sean, lately. Like, you've been kind of all around with Lael and everybody too. But I feel like we never really get a good chance to see your collection, because you don't necessarily have your own like YouTube channels per se. Like, specifically to you, right? So,
Yeah.
is there like, are you ever going to share a collection tour with the
Yeah.
community, or is that like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, so I did make a channel, Brightside Collecting.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Just so it's an Instagram and stuff like that where I post. I might post a video on there from time to time. I just streaming, showing up to streams and dealing with 2 children and all this stuff is almost enough for me to handle. So, but you know, I plan to post some stuff time to time, just stuff that interests me, comics, sneakers, whatever, and stuff like that. So, but for now, I love just being a talking head and showing up. But yeah, I think a collection tour is long overdue. So whether I post it on my channel or CW or something like that, it definitely will, because it's Star Wars is almost done. I got maybe 10 more figures of Clone Wars, and then it's all Marvel. And that's like 150 figures of Marvel, so that will take a minute. But then once that's done, it will be, I'll do a epic showcase on it for sure.
Dude, I'm such a fake fan. I didn't know you had the Brightside Collectibles Instagram, so I just got signed up to that. That's cool.
No worries.
Big fan. You hate to see it. I got a guest in the channel. You hate to see it.
Long overdue collection.
Yeah,
videos
it's
yeah.
it's a pain in the butt.
It's one of my favorite parts of collecting is seeing kind of what other people do. It helps for me to try and decide like how I want to display my own collection, and kind of, you know, Pete, you nailed it earlier. You know, like right now, you know, I've been collecting since 2010, but like not as aggressively as I have even been in the last 2 years, not by any stretch. But it is cool to get some of the feedback from more seasoned collectors like you guys to say like, hey, you know, like maybe not Sean, because he tells us to buy everything, but Pete, like I like the fact that you've got some reservation. You're like, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't, but here's why and what you like. So
yeah.
Speaking of which, then Pete, what does your Star Wars collection even look like in terms of Mando? And has this been something that you've been thinking about picking up? And just so you guys know, I have pulled up every slide of every Luke Skywalker hot toy I could find. So we're going to kind of flip through those here in a second as well.
Cool,
But
cool.
what are your thoughts on this guy, first of all?
I currently have one Mando figure. I have the Durasteel Mando, and I think that may possibly remain my sole representation of that, because otherwise, if I step beyond that, then you know you kind of got, like, I saw your Bo-Katan and stuff, and there's loads of figures that I could, you know, from an aesthetic point of view, say that'd be brilliant, and they'd all pair up with Mando. But I think to just represent the show and that character, then I think I'm just going to stick with him. As tempting as this is, I like the outfit. The head sculpt's good. The hair piece is a bit dodgy, but if you put one of the other, like I think if you put the one of the Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi ones, then it's really good, really good. This one's a little bit too much Ken, isn't he, from Barbie? But so I'm trying to not kind of branch out on the Mando, just because I don't have the space, and it's another rabbit hole. And my Star Wars was very much original trilogy, and I didn't stray from that for a long time until I started making my own CCFL lightsabers, and then I just wanted more Jedi, so obviously then I kind of went into the prequels and stuff like that. So I've only got Jedis from the prequels. I'm not into clones and stuff like that, so that's kind of so
Talk about rabbit holes, right? There's so many that you can get. There's just so many.
I enjoy people's Mandalorian collections through vicariously through other people.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
It is.
This is the way.
But yeah, no, that Bo-Katan looked really good. That's a great figure. I was watching your review yesterday.
It's blowing me away, dude.
Yeah.
I'm loving it, actually. And you can get her into some walking poses that look so natural, and like the way that the body flexes in the outfit is fantastic. I'm really really enjoying it, way more than I expected. And it is my first female collectible that I have in 1/6 scale, which is kind of cool. So she's a cool first one to have. I love Katie Sackhoff.
Mine's mostly Leia. I've got about 6 or 7
lots of layers. That's I'm jealous of that, to be honest.
I've got a couple of Ripley's from Aliens, and a Marion from Raiders. I think that's probably it. So, I mean, yeah, there obviously are a lot less characters out there, and depending on what lines you're into and stuff will determine. But obviously, from a Star Wars point of view, there's a lot of layers out there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Andre here says, I bought the Chrome Mando helmet for my Durasteel. It looks great, if not entirely accurate. I had bought the Black Series Chrome Mando helmet, the life-size wearable version. And it was pretty cool. It paired really well with like the 6-scale setup. But helmet collections are also one of those rabbit holes that I'm like, ooh, like there's a lot of really cool helmets. And if I start getting them now, I'm like, I'm not.
Totally
where am I
agree.
going to put them?
Totally agree. Because I look at the Stormtrooper ones or the Luke X-wing, and I think no, because one is never enough.
Well, and depending on what you want to spend, right? Like that's the other thing. Like the Black Series is only, I think, 170 Canadian. You get into the EFX ones and some of those, like that. Like there are some crazy prices out there. Sean, do you collect helmets? I saw you nodding.
I have 3 because it is such a, and they're all Black Series. I don't care about lineage. I don't care about any of that stuff that makes this $100 helmet turn into a $700 helmet. I'm sure there's differences that you Keenan folks out there, and if that's what you want to do, more power to you. But I don't. I'm not detail oriented enough in that to know, like, oh, this is, this hex code for this gray on Vader's helmet should actually be this hex code instead. So like, this is inaccurate. I don't want it. So yeah, I have 3. I have Mando, I have Bo-Katan, and I have Vader. Just because 3 iconic helmets, and the Bo-Katan helmet my wife likes now because of the show. So yeah, I think I'm good there. I'm not going to get anything else really, and I don't own a Boba Fett helmet or anything like that. So yeah, the Black Series ones for $100 down here in the States, they'll do it for you, and that's all you really need. Yeah.
I just don't. I would be worried about how much display I'd have to relinquish for all the helmets. I think would be cool to have.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm just doing them. They make like little. I've seen them almost like little clips that go just kind of on the wall, so you can like just put them on the wall. And I plan to put the 3 that I have just above my window here because I don't have any display up there anyway. So yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah. Clearly, you've got this figure on the way, I would imagine. I know you're a huge Luke Skywalker fan. I know you have most of the Lukes that we're going to look at here in a couple minutes.
We're going to have a competition, Sean, so who's got the most Lukes.
I have all of them.
I'm going to count mine up.
I've got to count the Lukes. Do you have this one in hand yet?
I don't know.
No, okay.
I don't order anything from overseas.
Fair. That's fair. Oh, we lost you.
No, I was turning on the display and I didn't want to say SIRI to get anybody change.
That's fair.
Yeah,
count 10.
Let me count. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11.
Oh, damn.
I have 11.
Wow.
So I have.
Have you got old Luke in there or crate or something?
I do have old Luke on a crate.
Okay, that's where you've beaten me. Yeah, I've only got OT, so.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right. So maybe I haven't missed any then, because Hot Toys collectors, we know our stuff, especially if you're a Luke fan or a Star Wars fan. You know how many have come in the past, and I didn't want to miss any and offend anybody. The question of the week has been, is this one that we just looked at, of course, the definitive Luke? But I don't know. After looking through all of them, I don't know if it is. So this is one that I showed Pete, I think, last week and the show last week. I got this for a very reasonable deal, slightly under retail actually, from a guy who was just reducing some of his collection, and his wife was cool with him reducing his collection, it sounded like. So he was getting these figures out the door, and unfortunately he didn't have any other A New Hope figures, because I would have definitely bought them if he had. But I got this in hand, and this face sculpt had been a little bit divisive, obviously. Now, this is a pretty old release at this point, so we have to take that into context. I'm not looking at this with a 2023 eye anymore. This is older, but getting this Luke in my collection, I absolutely love it. He's got so many different looks that you can put. The hat on him is hilariously silly. That is something that I do not recommend, especially if he's got the the hairpiece on. Even with the reduced shrunken hairpiece that he comes with, it doesn't fit very well. I actually took my hairpiece off and put it on him that way, and he looks like he's bald under his cap, but it fits a little bit better. So I love this Luke Skywalker, and when I think about a definitive Luke, you know, him standing there looking at the two suns, as the music swells, like that is one of those scenes that this guy in particular, this figure, captures for me. Yeah. Obviously, you guys have this Luke, I would think. If you just counted 10 and 11, you
custom version of
custom version.
I think the issue I have with this is this isn't the head sculpt we got. This is the promo head sculpt, which I think is really strong. What we got in production was not as good as this, and obviously we all know famously that Hot Toys have struggled to capture Mark Hamill, and I think we're getting closer. And arguably the new one, the Mandalorian one, you know, we're a long way on. We're 10 years on and stuff like that. So you know, with all that in taken into context, I think yes, it's probably the strongest likeness. This for me is the most iconic look for Luke. And when I say custom, I've got two of these because I've got one in my Jazzing Falcon cockpit and one on the shelf. So the one on the shelf has kind of got the poncho on. It's like very early, you know, he's just met Ben kind of thing. But I've kind of got a mix of Sideshow, Hot Toys, you know, because the Sideshow one had real cloth wraps around the boots and stuff like that. So I've kind of put together. Whoa,
sorry.
Your camera, Sean, is just crisp.
So crispy. I know.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Zach's was good, but yours looks like. So yeah, for me, this is it. This is the whole start of, you know, the whole thing. It's Luke's journey, and I love this look. Yeah, so I've got some custom Inigo and J-Nix sculpts and stuff like that. Again, none of them are perfect. Some people hate them, some people love them. You know, we haven't had the definitive, certainly a young Luke head sculpt yet, but I think the recent one does look really good, and just for that, I'm tempted to pick one up.
Would you want them to reissue this particular version of Luke, or do you think they shouldn't worry about revisiting the well on this at this point?
I don't normally have an issue with reissues, not the same way that John would have, but I have an issue in the fact that would I be tempted to rebuy them all again? You know, if they're that much better, and I don't really want to have to do that. The same if Art got Star Wars or something like that. I love these characters so much that it'd be really difficult for me not to kind of have to rebuy them again. And then what does that make the value of the original ones or you know, the custom ones and everything? So
definitely,
it would concern me. I don't. It's not from a point of view that I don't want people to have it and don't want it, but I fear for my own wallet. So
for sure. For sure. Let's move on.
He's a great figure. Yeah,
he is a good figure. This one then like warps us forward in time, right? Obviously to the newest films, and I would say the figure itself looks pretty cool. This is the MMS 390. I think it looks a lot more like Mark Hamill than some of the other offerings that are available. I think the likeness is actually pretty strong to his elderly self. But I didn't love what they did with Luke in these films. No. The scene where he throws the lightsaber behind him and just kind of, it didn't sit with me as a Luke fan. I'm so happy that we got a chance to see him return in Mando. And have such an iconic, like, badass scene where I would argue we got to see him more powerful than we've ever really got a chance to see him ever before. And that made it better, because honestly, as I said, this would not be a figure I would have bought necessarily because I didn't love those films. But having the fact that you guys have 10 and 11 Lukes in your collection is this one that you guys have. And Sean, what are your thoughts on this particular figure?
I do have this one. I believe it's my least favorite Luke because the actual execution of the figure, he's got really long arms. and it looks weird.
Yeah, they do look. Yeah,
yeah.
Now that you say that, yeah, fair.
Yeah, whatever body
Like
they pick,
me.
whatever body they pick for him, or hands or whatever, they're just like giant. So I mean, the outfit looks cool. The sculpt is, of the three, I think it's the weakest, but it still shows Mark Hamill. I think the Hobo Luke that you'll probably show next probably has, yeah, there you go, a better sculpt. Looks less Jeff Bridges and more Mark Hamill, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a unique look in that it is an all white Jedi robe. You know, and we don't really have that, so. You know, it's kind of shares the same tonally as far as color wise goes with the farm boy. So it's kind of like almost like here he started out, here's how he ended.
Cool evolution for sure.
But yeah, I mean, of the ones that I'm gonna sell maybe down the road,
That would be the one.
that would probably be the first one.
He looks a little greasy in this one, but like maybe it's
Yeah.
supposed
Yeah,
to
he
be
does.
raining or something. It's weird. I see the likeness in both of these, which doesn't
Yeah.
happen for me all that often. I feel like one is always like better than the other, but like I kind of see them being strong, but for almost slightly different reasons. This, and you said, is this from Rise of Skywalker? This one? What does it say?
No, it's
MMS
from
5.7.
TLJ.
Okay. So, like, I liked the scene with him. The one Luke Skywalker scene that I thought was cool was when he was like force projecting himself out into the desert and like waiting for those ships to come at him. So that was badass, and he kind of looked like this a little bit more. I feel like kind of the wet and pulled back look. Not a Luke Skywalker I would buy either. Again, same reason for me being the films. But you said you like this one, Sean, more than the other.
Yeah, it's got a lot of accessories and it just looks cool on the shelf. Like I could grab it, but
Didn't
it's
it come with the blue milk as well?
no, I don't think so. No, I don't think it does. No.
Pete, is this the
Actually, it
the 11th?
might.
This
The
is the one you
deluxe-
don't have?
The deluxe might have the blue milk. I don't know actually.
I thought it did. Yeah. No, I don't own anything from the
The Last Jedi.
sequel trilogy,
Got you.
and I won't do. I won't ever.
I won't ever.
I can, yeah, I can appreciate the figures, but yeah, no.
This one bugs me. This one. So is this from the like de-aging scene where like we see him in the tent with?
No, that's the great one when he projects.
This is where he
himself
force
and
projects
fights.
himself.
Okay, why does it look so much younger than these two versions? I don't like. What happened?
Trimmed his beard, bro.
It,
Put
just
a
for men?
little just for men
What?
in there. You know?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Look, he's ancient here and
Well,
like
he's
a
obviously
young man again.
He's projected and idealized.
He's projecting himself.
Like Neo in the
himself as-
Matrix, right? Like
Yeah.
my ideal self. I see.
It's like, this
Okay.
is when I look my best, so this is where I'm gonna,
I
Yeah.
thought I was surprised this was a higher MMS number because I was like, ooh, that one is rough. I don't think that looks like him very much at all. Or it's like Mark Hamill with, again, just too much beard dye. But like, no, I don't know. Is this one you still got, Sean? I don't want to offend you. Or
No, you don't. It's fine. I still have this one. It's
hate it.
I like that scene, and I thought it was cool to see him kind of buttoned up. Yeah, I think it's an interesting take on him. Luke's my favorite character from all the movies, so it's kind of like a thing that I'll get the Luke's. But whether we all agree that the movies were good or not, that's one thing. But Luke is a person I like. So it's an interesting figure. I love Jedis. And I'm going to say something controversial, but like I think one of the reasons why I'm not as huge of a fan of Rogue One as everybody is, I know everybody says that's their favorite Star Wars movie, yada yada yada. It's because they don't have any Jedis. I love Jedis. I love lightsabers. I love
fair.
all that shit.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm a sucker for it. So,
fair.
yeah.
Marco in the chat 16fix says, I've actually wanted this version. Pete said it right. It is intentionally an idealized representation. I've never looked at it that way, so that makes me feel warmer to it. But I'm still not. I don't know. Neo still looks like Neo in real life as when he goes into the Matrix. He's just a little bit more like hair gel, Fine.
Look, man, if I'm force projecting myself, I'm force projecting
Yeah.
my 26-year-old
Yeah,
self somewhere
exactly.
else, not my 41-year-old
Yeah,
self. So.
If I'm not projecting gray
You
hairs
can.
down
You're not
out there.
gonna. Yeah. Why not?
That's fair.
Definitely.
Also, I'm sure most people listening in the chat, and you guys, of course, are subscribed to 16fix Marco. But anybody listening to the show on replay, please do yourself a favor. Go over to Fix on YouTube and Instagram, and check him out. He streams with his wife Gigi all the time. They are a lovely couple. They have some amazing content, and they are only 60 subscribers away from 1,000. He helped me get my start with YouTube, as well as the Collecting Weekly Boys. I would not have a voice in this community if it wasn't for those guys. They absolutely deserve 1,000 subscribers. So if you're listening on replay, please jump over there and subscribe for me and for those guys.
Subscribe to Collecting Weekly if you don't already as well.
And absolutely, Collecting Weekly. We always plug those guys at some point here in the chat. So next, Luke Skywalker here. We've got the MMS 516 Endor version. Now, I actually think that the likeness on this is pretty strong. This one, I think, like, of versions, when I think of Luke Skywalker and him, on the speeders going through like the treat area with Leia, like, that was a cool scene. Definitely an iconic scene for sure from Star Wars, the original trilogy. This is one that I definitely missed on. I mean, I don't even know what year this one came out at this point. Probably not even that long ago. I wasn't
5 years ago.
5 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just wasn't collecting nearly as much. Sorry, Marco. Every time I pump Marco, he loses subscribers. So at some point, I'm just gonna stop. He said we lost 10 subs already. You hate to see it. Pete, is this one you have in your collection? Is this a definitive one for you or not?
Yeah, although the teeth really hurt this, and actually I did I did a swap yesterday, so I swapped out the this face sculpt which I had on my Endor Luke for the Snowspeeder one, because they will both fit within the helmets. And the I've got 2 Snowspeeder Lukes, one with the helmet on, one with it off. So the one where he's got the helmet on, he's kind of looking, he's sort of side on, so you don't see the teeth so badly, and it definitely looks better with the Snowspeeder one. It's essentially the same sculpt, but as we know, Hot Toys, when teeth get involved, they struggle. But aside from that, the figure's great. It's such an iconic look. I love the poncho and the helmet and stuff like that. So I had to have that.
Sorry, Pete. I'm laughing because Gigi said, "Excuse me," every time you want Marco.
Yes, I was about to say, every time you pump Marco. All right, guys. All right. This has been great. This is turning into a different stream than I was imagining.
Damn, I didn't even catch that. You hate to see it. You gotta watch what you say when you're live, I can't record myself out later. You hate to see it. I didn't know that the teeth were an issue on this figure, and I didn't even see it, Pete, until you literally just said it. So I had to mute myself, because you're not wrong. That is aggressive Horth-teeth action. There it is. Is that something that bothered you, usually, for this guy, or were you able to kind of pose around it?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I think it looks okay with the helmet on and stuff like that, because there's a lot going on. It kind of masks it.
Yeah, that one top right looks really bad, doesn't it?
Yeah,
with the
so
hair on,
it's definitely, I'm sure you're going to show 517 or 515, whatever it is after that.
Well, I hope I got it. I'm not sure.
You did, okay. You did. So I have both of these. I originally got 517, and then I went back and got 516 because I wanted both of them. But yeah, this is a much stronger sculpt with the sort of, half open mouth, if you want to call it. The windswept hair. So both of these are great figures. I wane back and forth whether ESB or Return of the Jedi is my favorite movie. It kind of depends on whatever's on right now. Then that one's my favorite movie. I think this the black suit, him at the final meeting with him and Vader and the Emperor and stuff like that, that sort of sleek Jedi look is like, with the green lightsaber and all that shit, like when I was a kid, that was like 10 out of 10, you know what I mean? So I always have a soft spot in my heart for this look, and that's why I've wanted every kind of look from Return of the Jedi, because they were so different. I mean, even the barge, I guess, is kind of similar to the final suit, but he's got the tunic, so it's different.
Yeah, I've got the stripped down final battle version. I haven't got a Jabba's Palace look. That's the only one I've got. Yeah, and obviously interesting with the slightly part open mouth, you've got sideways looking eyes, so they're not movable. So it's it's more difficult to kind of get it. You've got to have a particular look and know what you're going for, kind of thing.
I do like that look with the side eye and that's like
it does look. That second image there looks really good.
It looks good.
That's really
the far
good.
right one.
Because the original one that came with the Jabba Palace stuff was straight on eyes as well. So there's lots of different variants that you can kind of mix and match. Again, I've got custom sculpts on. Well, the Endor one has now got the Snowspeeder Luke, but my Final Battle one's got a Inigo custom on it, which I really like. But yeah, these are all pretty good.
So I saw this guy on eBay the other day
Hell yeah.
for like $800. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's how much they go for that. Holy shit.
Yeah, at least in Canada, which is what's probably like $6.50 US, I think.
$6.50. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Still a lot of money. Yeah.
I didn't know until I was putting these slides together that this was the like the A New Hope head sculpt.
Yeah.
I never put the two and two
It
together.
just
to
looks
be
a bit
honest.
sweaty. That's the only
It
thing.
does.
a little-
Yeah.
A little bit Tom Cruisey, a little bit sweaty, a little bit, yeah.
I know Marco, speaking of 166 there, just got the, I think the Han Solo in Stormtrooper gear. So I'm sure he is on the hunt for this, which is why I've been keeping an eye out as well. Because I'm going to try and buy it and obviously sell it to him for triple the price. But I thought this is a cool figure. This is, again, one that I missed on. Sean, did you get this exclusive Toy Fair one? Yeah, of course.
of course, yeah.
Like, is it worth asking?
Yeah, they're right. See, they're right over there. Those two
I
white.
can't see them.
There's two. Hold on. Wait. There we go. Those two white figures. Silhouettes that you see.
The little like blurs. a little
Yeah,
bit.
those are them. Those are them.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is, you know, when A New Hope sort of kicked off, it kicked into high gear or whatever you want to call that. You know, Luke Skywalker here to rescue you. You know, everything's fine. How are you? You know, all that shit is like all in this kind of look and everything like that. So, yeah, I bought these. I didn't buy them right when they came out. I got them shortly after, but so I got them for maybe a little bit over retail and for like $260 or $270, something like that. Nothing crazy back in the day. Yeah, these look great. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people use this. You know, if they can't get the 2-pack, they use this as the sort of short Stormtrooper. But yeah, these are just great figures.
Again, I didn't know it has even the detail in the Stormtrooper helmet. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's one of the only ones.
When I told Shauna that I was looking at this figure online for $800 on eBay, she was like, "Oh, you should never buy anything from eBay." And I was like, well, why not?" And she's like, "Well, I just don't think you should buy that figure." And I was like, "Okay, well, why not?" And she's like, "Well, you already have a Luke Skywalker. And I don't think it would, necessarily represent the collection, like the look that you're going for Luke." And all I could say was,
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
so I didn't actually say that. Just to put it out there if she's listening.
Well, you're still alive, bro. So
She's
yeah,
going to come
obviously
down
you
the
can say
stairs
that.
any minute and kick my ass. No, she was like, "No, you shouldn't get that one in particular, not for that kind of cost." Do you think this would be something, USB, that they'd ever revisit or repeat? Do you think they'd ever revisit this? Or do you think that this is one of those rare, like, Toy Fair exclusives that they're gone? They're done.
That's a hard one to say. I mean, they
Right.
don't really reissue Toy Fair exclusives. They have, let's to be fair, like the Arkham, not the Arkham, the Nightmare Batman and some other stuff. But it's always been in a 2-pack or something like that. So, maybe a 50th year reissue of him, Farm Boy and this guy together, or maybe a reissue of Han and Luke together in a 2-pack DX or something, maybe. But I don't know. It's been a minute, and yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. My joints are kind of getting a little bit loose and stuff like that over time. You know what I mean? But
That's just me in a nutshell lately, dude. That's eight.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Ain't no joint juice for that.
yeah, it'd be cool if they did. I mean, realistically, if you just got a Stormtrooper and threw a Luke Skywalker head sculpt
I
on
was
it,
gonna
you
say,
could make it.
Unless you desperately want the grappling hook, which you don't really see anyway. If you're posing him from the front, then that's the only thing that you would miss. I think mine are just bashed from the short and tall Stormtroopers with custom heads on my hand look. I absolutely have to have that look in my collection. It is so iconic, and I think as a kid growing up with them, that was like the coolest thing, that they were disguised as the Stormtroopers, and just absolutely iconic.
Totally. Sean, I'd never thought about kit bashing this. I've got a white Stormtrooper. I've got the Farm Boy Luke. I never even
There you go.
never even thought about it. That's an amazing idea.
The only
Funny,
thing you don't get is that black neck piece.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's fair.
But you can get round that. You can just put a bit of black material or something. But
sure.
obviously, with the troopers as they are, they just have that like little sort of foam ring, and then they go on. But yeah, that's the only difficult bit is the neck piece.
For sure.
But yeah, it's
Cool. No,
but
that's good.
I can just say while we're talking about that, I really don't like the hand sculpt that came with the smirky on the stormtrooper disguise hand. I've never really come to terms with that one.
Oh,
I know a lot of people love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it show here? Does it? No.
It's a little
No,
bit
it's on,
too-
it's on the Han sculpt.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Han
it's on
one.
the Han,
Sorry,
okay.
it's a little bit too predatory for my liking. But yeah, I know a lot of people love it.
I don't know if I know what you're even talking about. Can you elaborate? Like what is this hand sculpt?
Well, it's the
It's-
same as the New Hope smuggler one, but it's got like a sort of
got a smirk.
smirky. Yeah, and it's I don't know.
Sorry, I thought you said hand sculpt. I was like, how does a hand have like a smirky look to it?
Sorry,
what?
Han. I might say it differently to you guys, but yeah.
Fair. No, not a hand, a Han. Gotcha.
Han.
Gotcha. Now I know what
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about. That
yeah,
tripped
yeah.
me right out. We saw this one already, so we'll skip to the next. This one is one that I think I am actually going to bring to my collection.
You have to.
Empire Strikes Back is probably my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. And obviously the scene with him in the beginning in this jumpsuit. You could even pass it for A New Hope, kind of the end scene going through the Death Star, but obviously Empire Strikes Back, such a cool scene. I've seen people share pictures of this guy up close. The weathering, what he comes with, obviously really makes the figure. Some people are saying to them that this is their definitive Luke when asking that question about the Mando Luke. What do you guys think? Is this closer to that definitive one for you guys, or?
I think as a figure, it's the most complete package. I can't really fault it. And I've read some people say, "Oh, the leg straps aren't right," and the things like that. But to me, I can't find fault with it. I bought 2 of these, and I used parts to. I had a custom one from years ago. I changed the gloves and stuff on there. The main one I've got is him kind of with his bare hands holding some gloves I had and the helmet. But also I kit bashed X-Wing Luke as well from the outfit because it's pretty much the same.
That's
He ditched
pretty
the
cool.
jacket, and I got Ian to print me off some little bits and pieces like for the wrist communicator and stuff like that, and it works really well for that. The sculpt is great. I think it looks good with the helmet on, helmet off. So for me, and also if you haven't got one already, just the pop of the orange is just really good when a lot of stuff is greys and blacks and browns and stuff. So for me, maybe not my most iconic look, but I think if you're gonna buy one Hot Toys Luke figure, this is the one because I can't fault it. It's a fantastic figure.
Yeah, totally. I've been, again, like I said to you guys earlier at the stream, like I've been trying to not buy multiple of the same character, but with Luke's, yeah, like when you get that New Hope Luke versus the Bespin Luke versus this flight suit Luke, like they're so different that even though it's the same person, it feels like a very different feel, like to the figure itself, which helps me then kind of justify a little bit more. I mean, I counted 14 today when I put these slides together. Now I did count the 2-pack that we're going to look at here next. And I know, Sean, this is one that you have in your collection that you've showed off, I think on Collecting Weekly. I think you did an unboxing there at one point that I watched. Obviously, Bespin Luke, they're going to make a new version of it that doesn't come with everything that you see in this picture. I still think that if you're wanting a Bespin, that this is still really the chase package as a result, because as good as that new Bespin one looks, what do you call this again? I forget the metal that he's hanging
Weather
off of
vane.
at the end, like weather vane. Thank you.
Vane,
I think having the weather vane and being able to display it with that is like the craziest concept for a 6-scale display that you can have. Like I've seen people mount them to the ceiling and stuff. It's amazing. Sean, like this has to be easily one of your favorite Lukes in the collection, if not if not your favorite. But tell me, like, is this your definitive at this point from after seeing everything we've seen?
I'm gonna take a cop out here and say I don't think there's one definitive Luke. I think Luke, like you said, is changes so much throughout the trilogy. We'll just say the OT that really you kind of either if you only want one, you just have to pick which one's your favorite. Whether it be for me, probably the Emperor's Chambers or whatever, the final duel, whether it's Bespin or Snowspeeder or Farm Boy or whatever, but for me it's like, yeah, you kind of have to have one from each look to
I have to have every look. Yeah,
exactly.
For all three of the main characters,
we're spirit animals.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I love DX07. I mean, it's the first DX figure that I got. And it's a phenomenal figure. I mean, back in the day when you could get 2 full figures of Weather Vane, all this stuff, and have 2 separate looks with 2 separate hair sculpts, 2 separate everything, one with a chopped off hand and with a unique piece that goes onto that, etc. So I still think it's definitely starting to show its age as far as just the materials go. But as far as the package and the sculpts and all that stuff, it still works 100%. So, I'm glad that they're doing a reissue of the Bespin. So if you don't want to spend $500 or whatever it is now on the 2-pack, you can get get this good. And call it a day. Because that's one thing I didn't get was the exclusive, the helmet. Yeah. So the fact that it comes with this one now is phenomenal. So I'm super happy to get that. I'm just ecstatic for any Luke. So that's fair. If a lot of people, ESB was their favorite movie. And like I said before, it kind of just depends on what's on, when as soon as the ESB comes on, I was like, oh, this is my favorite movie. Every part is awesome. And it's got a lot of iconic scenes. It's got a lot of iconic stuff, and Dagobah / Bespin and all that stuff. And this look has been one of its biggest transformative times. So to have it in your collection is definitely a must for sure.
I mean, I think you guys kind of both answered it at this point. And Sean, you said it really nicely. There is really no definitive Luke at this point. No. If Luke is one of your favorite characters, buy them all. Or buy at least the ones that resonate with you the best. Some of the, the older Luke or Mark Hamill likeness versions that are there, they're still, objectively cool figures. Cool to have in the collection. It's cool to see an evolution of a character. Even if we don't necessarily all love where that evolution took that character, it's still cool to have it in display. So this might be the next one that I actually pull the trigger on. I am trying to hold off on the Mando.
Yeah, if you don't have the DX07, or I've just got the clean version of it. But
this I think is the one that I need next, anyways, versus just a want. So. Guys, we have 31 people in the chat. Yeah, I don't know if you had an opportunity, but if you can, hit the like button. Always appreciated. We've got one more main topic of the show tonight, and it could get a little bit spoilery. It is with regards to The Last of Us. So, Pete, just quick question. Have you seen the newest season of The Last of Us, and have you played either of the games?
I have. I played the first game and the DLC for it back when it came out, 10 years ago. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic game. And it's funny because I've not gone back to it. I keep meaning to, because we've got a PS5 in the house now, and I know they've re-released it for PS4, PS5. But I obviously vaguely, I kind of had vague recollections of the storyline, and it's good to see that they kind of, from what I can remember, stayed fairly faithful to that. I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it.
I'm glad that's the case. So from here on out, we're going to talk a little bit of spoilers of The Last of Us Part 2 video game. Obviously, we don't have inside information as to what the show might look like, but we will be talking about Part 2 of the game. So if you have not played it, maybe watch the rest on replay after the fact. You've been warned. Spoiler warning. So the question is, should the showrunners stick with the story from The Last of Us Part 2 video game, or make a new path for the characters moving forward? The reason that I wanted to ask that question is the first part, obviously, is what we've just seen in television form. Pete, you nailed it. I think just how good of a game representation they were able to adapt to screen was beautiful. Like, the show was really, really well done. I liked some of the subtle changes and some of the not so subtle changes. You know, the Bill story in episode 3, we got way more developed into that, but it created that like emotional catharsis for, you know, the Joel character, right? Reading that note to say, you know, we need to take care of these people made it just that much more for Pedro to kind of look at it and go, okay, I'm going to protect Elia. We're going to get her to the end of this. You got to finish what we started, right? The game did an amazing job of having this emotional story built in and around like the end of a world style story. And I thought that the game part 2 also, in my opinion, did a great job continuing that story. But there was some pretty divisive plot points of The Last of Us 2 that people absolutely hated. I wish Dean from Collecting Weekly was here today as well, because he got super animated talking to me about this the other day backstage. Because for him and for myself, the fact that Joel dies so early in that second part of the game, and then it's Ellie's storyline, but then it's not, right? Then we end up getting to play from the perspective of the character we just saw kill Joel. And for a lot of people, that just didn't sit right, because it was like, I don't want to play this person. She's no hero of mine. I don't know who this person is. I just watched her kill like my favorite character of the game. This person that I developed this huge emotional connection to in part 1. And now I gotta play this girl, like, and it fell flat for a lot of people. For me, it was hard to play, and in the moment I wasn't totally sure I liked it.
That's the point.
Exactly. Seeing that, like, that dichotomy of nobody is in the right and nobody's in the wrong, everybody's in the gray. It depends on your perspective and your perception of the world around you. But Pedro Pascal is one of the biggest actors in the world right now. Bella Ramsey is like just exploding in terms of popularity. So what do you think the showrunner should do? Because that second game did not get as well rated in a lot of ways, at least fan reaction wise, as critically it did still very well, but fan reaction wise, it was really, really split, and could potentially kill the television show a little early if we see some of those things happen. So I kind of turn it over to you, Sean, first. Should they change it? Should they carve a new path? Should they keep it the same?
I think that they're going to keep it the same, but in a different order. So first, to touch base on Last of Us 2's reception. So if you watch this, it's on Screen Crush. This guy named Ryan Airy, he does kind of breakdowns of every new episodes of whatever, every new movie, did a normal pop culture stuff. But when Last of Us came out, he did a kind of a full deep dive on Last of Us 2, why it was a great game that everybody hated and why people hated it and stuff like that. It's a very good sort of breakdown of it, and I thought it was really interesting. But like I said, I think the point of it is to, you hate playing it because you're playing it as this person who just killed your favorite character, the person that you fell in love with over 100 hours in the last game. And so, but I think that he said that the developers did it this way to sort of make you see the sort of fallout of your actions, make you see, see it from a different point of view, because in a game you're playing it, you're always killing everybody. You never see anything like this. And then you play it from a different character's point of view. You see their motivations. You see who they love. You see this person, you kill their dog and you see them deal with it and stuff like that. And so it's forcing you to see it from a different point of view, a different perspective, and her hatred, and then ultimately Ellie's hatred, and everything that happens with that. So I think it's like anything Last of Us, it's deeper than at the surface, and it definitely sucks to play as Abby, like 100%, but like it's the developers are definitely trying to show you and tell a story through a different way of telling it than we're used to, you know what I mean? Because it's always the good guys win and da-da-da. But if there's anything Last of Us has shown you, the good guys don't always win, and there's, life is gray. Even Joel's last choice, or Joel's choice in the first show or in the first game, there's no neither of them were right. Objectively, neither of them were right. Yeah, but
He killed a lot of innocent uninfected people.
Exactly. So, as to the point of what they're going to do, I think there's a lot of sort of backward storytelling in that. There's like flashbacks and stuff like that in Last of Us 2. So I think if they do it more linear and maybe fill in the time gap in between, them, because there is a time gap, that happens, and Ellie's a bit older and stuff like that. So if I was a betting man, I would think that they would fill in that time gap a bit, maybe do some of the flashbacks, and that, maybe do some parallel stuff with Abby, and then the sort of season finale or whatever would be when they would do the actual thing, and then there would be a little bit more of a time jump, and then season 3 would be about Ellie and fighting Abby and stuff like that. So
Going after each other.
I think that would be my point of view, because like I said in the pre show, like if they kill Pedro Pascal in the first episode of season 2, my wife will set my house on fire. so
That's fair.
It's not gonna happen. They're more sensible than that. I agree with you, Sean.
Yeah, and it's that's what Last of Us did so well with the first season, is that they adapted the first game. Like you said, episode 3 with Bill and Frank, they didn't just take the cutscenes, film them, and here's your thing. They adapted it. They delved deeper into different stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that they could do before that happens. You know what I mean? So we'll see what they do. But yeah, I hope that they're smarter than that, and at least give Pedro another season to shine.
For sure. Always Sunny Vale says Neil Druckmann, I would imagine, spoke kind of funny about it and said he's not changing the story but considering restructuring it. So I think kind of like to the same note as you're saying, Sean, there's a way that they can approach it that doesn't piss everybody off, but also leaves you with, like that when we saw Ned Stark's head get cut off at the end of the first episode or for first season of Game of Thrones, and it was like, well, he was kind of the guy I was rooting for. He's just dead. But I'm not kidding. First episode of season 2, I was back because I was then curious, how are they going to then rectify this? What is going to happen from that? And so, same question goes to you, Pete. Do you echo kind of what Sean is feeling when it comes to this question?
Completely agree. I think that they would be unwise to do that. I think it would happen in the season finale of season 2, and obviously if people that aren't familiar with the games, that would be a massive shock. Along those same lines as that was the great thing about Game of Thrones. Obviously, if you'd read the books, you'd know, but I didn't read in the book, so nobody was safe in that, and that was what was brilliant about it. They just killed off pretty much everyone, and some of them were massive shocks. You were like,
oh yeah, the Red Wedding. Still, I still think about that episode.
And to a lesser degree, and I'll mention this only because I've finally come to the end of 13 years of pain of watching Walking Dead, and I've finally finished it, and that's been a real trek to do that, because although there are some great moments, it really didn't need to go 11 seasons. But at the same time, again, it had that feel that you never quite knew who was safe. And when I watched the final episode, it was a little bit emotional, because although it has been really painful and I've hated lots of it, it was kind of, a little bit like saying goodbye to it kind of thing. And you look back and you think, well, actually, from like the first episode, there's only 2 characters left. So I think it has that feel to it. I think they've done it better, and hopefully it's going to be, as you say, like Sean, maybe like 3 series and that'll be it. They don't just try and just keep it going. So yeah, I agree. I think that would work really well, that he dies at the end of the, because for a lot of people that would be a huge shock, not knowing the story, and they'll want to tune in to season 3 to see, well, how do we have a show without Joel?
Well, because can you imagine Abby and Ellie going after each other in the third season of it? That could get really intense. There's some insane video game scenes of them fighting, and just there's that one part where they're kind of fighting out in this misty water area. Beautiful scenery in the game. I can't imagine how they might do it in reality. But I think even for the people like us who have played the game and would expect Joel's death, if that ended up being a season finale kind of cliffhanger, I would still show up to see that for the
yeah.
very same reasons. I think if we get more time as Joel as kind of that father figure in Ellie's life, I think Always Sunnyvale said something similar in the chat. Like, I think that is really, like, that's going to create that emotional bond even more to Pedro's character or Joel than we have now. And so that build up, that death, and then just the absolute, like, we've seen Ellie go a little wild now, right? Like, we've seen that she has a wild side to her, and I'm not talking fun kind of wild, like crazy wild. And if she's not left with a little bit of containment, a little bit of structure, somebody that can kind of help her stay in check, she goes off the rails and starts hunting Abby down. I think it could get pretty intense, pretty scary from that actress. And Bella Ramsey, while I wasn't totally sold on her at first as Ellie, she definitely grew on me by the end of the season, and she's got such a unique look to her. She is interesting to kind of watch, and seeing her lose her shit, I think, will be pretty crazy. So
and I think this has really drawn in people. Like my brother, he's not into gaming or this sort of thing, but he's stumbled upon this and he's loving it, and obviously he has no idea of the story or anything like that. He's got to the point where he's actually like thinking about picking up a PS4 or whatever to play it. So for him, like watching season 2, he obviously knows that Pedro, he doesn't watch the Mando or anything like that, so this is his experience of Pedro Pascal. But obviously everyone knows that he's like the biggest star at the moment kind of in TV, and for him to see that and him killed, that would be like a real shock and be like, oh wow, so I think it has permeated beyond the target, the expected audience of those that know it from the game. So
I agree. Last question here from the chat. We've Always Sunnyvale says, your thoughts on recasting Ellie for part 2? I don't think they should do it.
No.
I don't like recasting. I loved House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. But when they changed the actresses mid-show, it took me a couple episodes to feel like I was back on board. Even though they both did an incredible job of acting, it didn't make sense to me why there were still some of the same actors as other characters that they just had like subtly aged up. And then there were these two female characters who were such iconic bits of the first part of that season, to then just kind of rip them away and put somebody else there. It felt like, Daddy's got a new stepmom. Like, it didn't like, it didn't feel right. Who is that? It felt like an imposter syndrome. I didn't like it. What do you guys think? Thoughts on recasting Ellie?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think if they, especially if they do it kind of the way we're suspecting here, I mean, it's going to be, they probably won't film season 2 for another year or whatever, and then Ellie will be a little bit older and she'll be able to go through all that. Then they do that full season of her, and Joel, and then she he ends up dying, and then maybe they delay season 3 a couple years, and then by then, because I think she's 14 or 15 now, so then by the time season 3 hits, she's 20 and she's aged into the role enough, what I mean? So I think if they pace it like that, I think they'll be fine. I don't think there's a reason to recast Bella.
Well, she had said she was wrapped and everything to make her look younger, even, right? Like to reduce like body shape and stuff, just to make her look even younger than she was. So I think that'll obviously help. What were you gonna say, Pete?
Yeah, I agree. I think I found her a bit weird, a bit strange, from a sort of a visual point of view, but also from the way. But I think she's grown on me, and I think she played the role really well. As somebody that's watched Doctor Who for 60 years, well, not I haven't watched it 60 years, but watched Doctor Who all the way through. You kind of you there's certain, like Matt Smith, when he first came out, I really hated him, but I let him kind of and he became brilliant and possibly one of my favourite Doctors. So I very much believe in giving people time to kind of mould themselves into that role, and then I'll judge them kind of further down the line. And actually, I think having watched the whole season, I think she did a really good job, and I certainly wouldn't want to recast her.
It's kind of like Thor when they announced that Chris Hemsworth was going to play Thor, and he'd only been in that first period. He played Picard, not Picard.
Yeah,
what's his name, Dad? Anyways, Kirk's dad. There you go. And he was
Kirk's
like,
dad, yeah.
that guy? He's like
Yeah,
a skinny
yeah.
nerd. What? And then he's like, oh shit, okay, yeah. So definitely, yeah. Anybody can play anything.
And Ledger as the Joker, and you know,
Yeah.
it's happened time and time again that you have to give people a chance, and then they end up becoming like iconic in that role. So.
But then there are some that are suggested as a consideration, like The Witcher, you know, with Henry Cavill in The Witcher,
Yeah.
and then making it the other Hemsworth brother, and it was like, ooh, like if they make it Liam, I'm just not gonna watch it. Like I'd just be kind of out at that point. So
Yeah.
and I would fear, like, for them, you know, with Bella Ramsey, like, don't mess with a good thing. If people liked it, stick with it. I think she'll be able to do well. Guys, we're at the 2-hour mark, so I respect your time. I want to let you guys get back to your families. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's only my 3rd live stream I've ever put out, so obviously we'll get some of the StreamYard bugs worked out over time. Thanks for sticking with it. Everybody in the chat, I really appreciate you guys joining. Sean Usby, what is going on with you, either with your collecting or your Instagram or just your life, good sir? You got the floor. Tell me about your life.
Tell me about it. Well, I was born April 18th, 1982. It was a nice spring day in San Diego, California. Yeah, let's see here. I think I will be unboxing tomorrow. I have something that came up, but I'm going to try and get out of it, but we'll see. Unboxing and collecting weekly. Usually on Wednesdays, I'm on Lael's show over on 1/6 Scale Man. And yeah, other than that, getting ready to go to Denver in a couple weeks for a vacation, and trying to keep my 2 children from tearing each other apart as much as possible. So,
How old are your kids, Sean?
You named one Logan.
Logan
it
and
comes
Olivia.
with the territory of just
Yeah.
ripping things apart.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
my son will be 7 next month, and my daughter's 3. She'll be 4 in August.
Oh,
so.
okay, yeah, still a big handful.
Yeah, they are at the.
Our son's 13, so he's kind of chilled out a little bit now.
Yeah.
About to go into those hormonal
Oh
teenage
no,
years.
you're in the whole. You're in the other side of it. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As far as collecting stuff, just wait for my Joker whenever that comes in.
Me too.
I don't know. Me and Marco and you would be the last people to get them, I guess.
Literally,
But,
we want to have an unboxing on
Yeah.
Collecting Weekly, and I don't know what's going to happen. So.
so yeah, just until then, just unbox and keep it unboxing like 3, 4, or 5 figures
Yeah.
a day to get them up. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping through, man. And check out Instagram at Nord or at Brightside Collecting if you guys are
There you
listening
go.
in on a replay.
Nord.
I myself clearly have to do the same. So, fake fan over here, you hate to see it. Pete from OFAC over at Collecting Weekly. Tell me what you got coming up, good sir.
Yeah, we have an episode of OFAC streaming on Thursday this week. We go at 8:30 UK time, so what's that going to be? About 6 hours behind for you guys. I think a bit of a light show, but we would normally manage to do an hour and a half. Obviously, we're another week closer to Celebration, where Ian and I will be attending on the Saturday. So we'll just be talking about that a bit more. We've got some merch up, and we're kind of starting to get an idea about who's going from the communities in the UK, and if anybody's coming over from the States or wherever. We'd just like to meet up with as many people as possible. So
That's awesome, dude.
It'd
That's
be
going to
really
be fun.
good. Yeah.
I know Lael is coming out there, and Calvin and Spice Runner and a few others. So yeah, I'll get you guys in contact.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Absolutely. And speaking of those guys, especially all the folks that we stream with, I'm thinking about making this show potentially an hour or an hour and a half later next week, just because it does seem like this early in the day is a little harder for people to kind of get home from the store and, be able to chill for a couple hours before dinner time. So let me know in the comments below, everybody that's listening, if you guys like the time slot and want me to keep it, I can consider that, or if it needs to just be shifted by an hour to make the viewing or attendance easier. I'm good with that. I like the feedback there. In terms of what's coming up for the Ben Thomas show, check out the Bo-Katan review that I just did on Friday. I love that figure. I've just been beaming about it all weekend. I got a chance to be on with Will Foxification on Friday, and Kiko Collects, as well as the 1/6 Scale Man this morning there for Collectors International. Really fun streams if you guys missed them, so check them out. For future Sundays of Let's Get Nuts, I've already got a couple people who have said they want to come. Next week, Hoth's Hometown Hero. He's a newer YouTuber that's kind of making his rounds out there in the community. He's going to be joining the show for our chat next week. as well as guys like Lael and the Oxfather and Marco and Calvin and all of the other folks that have been so kind to say that they'd want to join at some point. So stay tuned every Sunday. I will keep you guys posted this week when the show will be live next week, so you can tune in live. But look out for those guys. It's going to be fun. We're going to have lots of fun things to talk about, and my bugs will all be resolved at that point. It's just going to be a perfect show. You'll love to see it. But if you guys like the video, hit the like button for me. Smash the subscribe if you're new to the channel or if you're listening on the after recording there. And I will be back. Thanks for watching, everybody.
I'll be back.